Welcome to Tournament in a TeaBreak. It's finals day, part two.
Yes.
So we didn't bring you one yesterday because you're going to get a fun-packed podcast today. I'm joined, of course, by
Mert Ertunga.
I'm obviously Ros Satar, and we're going to chat about the phenomenon that, quite frankly, was Ashley Barty and her win over Marketa Vondrousova. Her first slam. I have to say, I went into her press conference and she is a shining light. Aussie press need to understand that they've got an absolute gem that they should be promoting to the hilt instead of giving airtime to Nick Kyrgios and all of his antics that he does, I am sure, a lot of the time for attention. She she
radiates positivity. First of all,
really
I felt positive being in there. Usually, people feel positive just around her, and in fact, I've even been in matches in the past years where I was with the person who she was facing, or I was friends with the person who she was facing. Therefore, supporting her, and even then, she always gives good vibes. In other words, she's very positive, very just well behaved on the court, and incredibly focused.
Oh,
she's tuned into the match. She's a fighter. In every way, she's great.
She, right from the start, she halted Vondrousova's attempts to get anything going in her game. One of the things that we asked was, did you not feel that you could drop shot? And she said, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. I wasn't allowed to play my game. A lot of it also, I think, certainly at the beginning, was being overwhelmed by the occasion. She hadn't played on Chatrier. She hadn't practiced on Chatrier even. She practiced that morning when I came in. Can you give us an insight of what a difference it makes to play or at least practice or even be on a show court as opposed to a court like Simon Mathieu, which is a beautiful court, but actually quite intimate?
Yes, exactly. That is you just touched it on that last sentence. It's not necessarily the surface. Sometimes there will be in these majors or big tournaments, even the surface will have a little bit of variance when you're on Chatrier or versus second or third court. But here it's not an issue of surface. If you've never played in a court like that or even practiced, and quite frankly, even if she did practice, there are no spectators, right? When you first enter a court like that, you're just simply in awe, and you feel like you're in the middle of an arena, and you probably never had that many eyes on you. Not only you're playing for the title of a major, but at the same time you are playing in an environment where there's going to be oohs, ahs. You miss a shot, instead of having maybe your mom or dad or your few supporters put their hands on their face, no, here you have 1,000 people going, and then you hit a great shot. Perhaps they clap for a long time, and you hear these things. There's no way for a player like her, in her first time in a stadium like Chatrier, to block that out.
Right.
And that's one of the lessons that you learn as you start playing the big stage, is to be able to block out. You hear that cliche, right? Block everything else out. Well, there's no way Vondrousova could block all that out yesterday.
Right.
So that's the disadvantage that she's had compared to Barty. But let's at the same time not overdo Barty's experience either.
Mm-hmm.
It was her first major final too. So, but at the same time, it's not comparable when you've never been on a court like Chatrier.
Yeah, Barty, of course, had won Miami this year. That was her biggest career title to date. I think it sets her up nicely for something like this. She had a very good game plan. She admitted against Anisimova she played some great tennis. She also played some awful tennis. And she said it again yesterday in the press conference that, it had been some ups and downs. It's been a real roller coaster for Barty, but she made it look effortless yesterday.
Yes.
It really was a tour de force from her.
Exactly, and she did something that most of Vondrousova's opponents don't do for some reason, and I've mentioned this maybe last week in one of our casts, is that she balanced it out between playing Vondrousova's forehand and backhand, and she even sometimes put the pressure on Vondrousova's forehand, where she has a bigger backswing. She's more prone to errors. With her backhand, she's able to accelerate with her lefty backhand. So she did that a little bit more than other players do, because many other players get stuck just playing to her backhand for some reason, and her backhand side is stronger. And also she took advantage of Vondrousova's second serves. She sliced some of them back. She even hit short cross-court angles on some of the returns, and she tried to take charge from the beginning. If we just talk about variety in Barty's game, clay courts are actually not bad for her. They're suited fairly well. I'm not going to say she's better on clay. She's a great grass court player. I think grass courts are her best surfaces, but her game is not that far away from being able to use her weapons on clay.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This time last year, she was saying after Charleston, each clay court week is a week closer to the grass. Mm-hmm. She's getting there. But I mean, how amazing a run for her, for somebody that, was just like, it's a 6-week period. I mean, maybe that's where she's actually quite like Kyrgios in that respect. It's like, it's this like 6 to 8 week period of playing on red stuff that stains your socks and then, bring us to the grass.
Yes.
Now, I think, she's in a great position to bring, and she has got an all-court game and she has got an all-surface game.
Yes.
I just don't know why she's ever felt that this isn't her thing, but it is her thing. Somebody else for whom clay is definitely their thing, of course, is the king of clay, Mr. Rafael Nadal, and we will be seeing him in action again against Dominic Thiem shortly for the second straight year. Now,
another clay court specialist.
But just that alone is quite remarkable, I think.
Yes. Let's look at Thiem's trajectory here. It was his fourth semifinal in a row. And now he's in his second final in a row. So you see that we've got a player who's not just having this big jump up and skyrocketing to the top, but he's digesting and marinating every single success, and he's advancing little by little. In other words, he's not he's taking his time, and these kind of progress usually end up with a victory. It's kind of like you put the work in and you bear the fruits later. Well, this is his fourth year in a row that he's in the semis, second year now that he's in the finals. He may not get it this year, but at this rate, I do not see Thiem not winning a French Open sometimes in the future.
I mean, I didn't realise that it was his fourth in a row, which in itself is remarkable. And
he's 2-1. He's 2-1 against Djokovic now.
Yeah,
and he beat him in the French Open already.
Let's just talk about that match. I mean, what amazed me in that semi-final was that for a lot of Djokovic's shots, knife volleys at the net, coming in to try and finish off the points, against anybody else, a lot of those shots would have been winners. Thiem was able to get almost everything back, and I was just watching like kind of, geez, how is he getting to everything?
He's very fast. The Thiem is amazing. Incredibly fast. His first step is incredibly quick. And about Djokovic coming into the net, Djokovic fell into a trap there a little bit because his coming to the net worked Friday. He won a lot of points at the net. In fact, he won some crucial points serving and volleying on Friday. In the second set, for example, in the 1-all game, he's down 15-40. He pulls 2 serve and volleys and he saves them. So when Saturday began, his first serve and volley also worked on an important point at 3-4 in the third set. And then he thought, okay, I can pull this off today again. And then he did it. He overdid it. He did it like 4 times in a row where it didn't work. And 2 of them came at that 5-6 game in the third set, where he was actually doing well. When they came back onto the court, he was the better player until that 5-6 game where he committed 4 unforced errors and tried those 2 serve and volleys.
Yeah, I mean, look, credit to Djokovic. It was amazing. They came back onto court, 1-3. He pulled it right back. I mean, that whole match was incredible. We often say that the semi-finals, my old mum used to say, the semi-finals can sometimes give you the best matches of the lot. And everybody felt that, Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer will be the de facto final. I'm sorry, but if you ask me, Djokovic and Thiem was a de facto final. That could well have been the final, the quality of the tennis. In terrible conditions, it has to be said. I mean, on Friday, it was abysmal.
Yes. Is it acceptable for me to differ a little bit with you on
that
thing? Okay, because I'm gonna say that the quality, and most of it, I agree with you that the conditions stopped that, but I felt like the quality was very spotty. In other words, we've had some good streaks, some bad streaks, and towards the end there, it turned into, in my opinion, a battle of errors. In other words, who
commit less,
who'd commit less, and who would not commit them on big points. At the very end. I mean, Djokovic is looking good, and then he makes 4 mistakes in a row to lose his serve.
Yeah.
And then Thiem goes up 40-15, and he plays four dismal points to lose that game. So it's 5-all again, and then Djokovic loses. It was just who's going to stop?
A war of attrition.
Exactly, a war of attrition. And finally, so it's kind of ironic that the match ended on a great winner.
Yeah.
Because up to that point, the last 20 minutes or so, we've had a lot of errors. And
so,
one last thing.
Sure.
When they came back from that last stop at 1-4 down, 4-1 Deux, Djokovic once again started well, and he worked his way back into the match. That's why it's kind of surprising that he had those 2 terrible games again. But I will say this though, his body language was a little bit concerning. I felt before they stopped. At 3-1, 4-1 up to Deux before he almost looked like he was ready to get out of the court, But okay,
a bit slumpy and
it happens sometimes. Yes.
So come on, let me put you on the spot. Nadal versus Thiem.
Well, I'm going to go with Nadal, and I'm going to go ahead and say in straight sets.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of close sets followed by a third, maybe less close set. Something like 7-5, 7-6, 6-2, or something like that.
I'm going to say that Thiem gets a set. I said this last year. Thiem, in order for Thiem to have any kind of hope, he has to get the first set, and I think the same is true this year. Of course. And I think the adrenaline. He spoke about it. He said, I'm full of adrenaline now. I'm going to be full of adrenaline tomorrow, and I'm ready to leave it all out there on the court. And I actually believe that he is. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he didn't last year, but he did look like a little boy lost last year.
Yeah, he will go out with a belief this year. With much more belief this year. Yes.
So I think he's going to take the first set. I think he's going to take a set off him. I think he could even take 2 if Nadal's level drops, because he hasn't been tested at all. Mm-hmm. As I said, just consider this. Coming into this, the only person to take a set off him is David Goffin.
Yes.
Just stop and think about that.
Stop and think about that for a second. And I completely, I completely agree with you in the potential of what you're saying. Because Rafa could once again have a slow start. He could have a slow start, and Thiem doesn't. I don't think he will have a slow start. He's been playing tennis regularly now for the last 3 days, competitive tennis. So I don't think he will have a slow start. So yes, there is a chance that Thiem may win the first set. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I would love for you to turn out right, and we go to a fifth set.
Let me put it like this: if he gets the first set, just look across, and you'll just see me.
Yes, I will be the first one to give you credit, Ros, in our next one if he gets the first set.
Okay. Well, with any luck, we will get back to you with some words after the final. But until that time, you have been listening to Ros Satar
and Mert Ertunga.
We'll catch you a little bit later.